Hello and welcome to the OT Schoolhouse Podcast, your source for the latest school-based occupational therapy tips, interviews, and research. Now, to get the conversation started, here are your hosts, Jason and Abby. Class is officially in session.
Hello and welcome everyone to OT Schoolhouse episode number 19. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving break. I sure had some time to spend with the family and built some IKEA furniture, and all was wonderful here at the Davies house. So I hope you all had a great time, and I'm welcome to, I'm glad to have you all back. So with that, we are going to get started. I don't know if you can tell, but my voice is a little hoarse, but I'm just going to introduce our guest today. Her name is Jaime Spencer. Many of you probably know her as Miss Jaime OT of the Miss Jaime OT blog. She also produces many wonderful Facebook videos and sends out wonderful sensory motor emails on Mondays. So be sure to check her out on her website. Again, that's missjamieot.com, and sign up for her email list. And we're going to talk about some Facebook groups a little later today that you should also be sure to join. If you're having any difficulty finding these Facebook groups or her email, can't quite remember what it is, be sure to check out otschoolhouse.com/episode 19 for the show notes. We'll have plenty of links over there for all the resources that we talk about today. And so without further ado, please help me to welcome Miss Jaime Spencer to the OT Schoolhouse Podcast. Hey, Jaime, welcome to the OT Schoolhouse Podcast. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Excited. Only one more day of the day that we're recording this until we get to have a nice long week break. How about you guys?
I'm excited too, definitely. Looking forward to Thanksgiving.
Yes. How's the weather up there? I've seen on the news that it's a little crazy up there, or about to get crazy.
Yes, it took me 2 hours to get home today, and it usually only takes me about 40 minutes. So
oh, wow.
It was a really bad blizzard. Well, not a blizzard, but it was pretty stormy.
Yeah, I'll stay here in California for a bit. Well, Jaime, you are the blogger behind MissJamieOT.com, and I'm so happy to have you here. But I want to give you a minute to introduce yourself, a little bit about who you are, what you do, and also about your blog.
Great. So my name is Jaime Spencer. I've been a school-based occupational therapist for about 18 years now. I work in the public schools in Nassau County, Long Island, New York. And my majority of my caseload is from kindergarten to 5th grade, but I happen to be the only district employed occupational therapist in my district. So we have 10 buildings, and I kind of run around from building to building, do a lot of, I wear a lot of hats. I do all the assistive technology for my district, and I do push-ins for the general education kindergartens and 1st grades. And I'm actually doing a research project right now about handwriting. So I kind of have my hands in a lot of areas, which I really like. It makes the weeks go by, and it's interesting and fun, and I love working with the kids. So I also have a blog, a pediatric occupational therapy blog. It's called MissJamieOT.com, which I really love because it allows me to share information and resources and ideas and activities with parents and teachers and therapists. I have 2 books so far, the handwriting book and the scissor skills book, which I co-authored with a bunch of other pediatric occupational therapists and physical therapists. That was really fun. And my big passion right now is that I'm an advocate for occupational therapy and school-based OTs in general. So I'm interested in telling you a little bit more about that as we go on, because it's a hot topic for me. But I also have a Facebook page with a lot of Facebook Live videos. I do something called Motor Monday, and every Monday almost I try to share some tips or tricks or a cool new product I found to share with parents or teachers about just things they can do to help the children in their lives. My tagline is helping you to help the children in your lives. So I hope to, just be a good resource for adults who have children with needs.
Yeah, I love that tagline. I mean, I often tell people within the schools, teachers, admins, I can sometimes help one kid in 30 minutes, or I can help a teacher who can help 30 kids. Sometimes, those simple little tricks and tips that can help an entire class versus one kid go so far.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's fun when you share one with the teacher and they're like, you're a genius.
Exactly. I love those moments.
And you're like, oh, this one's an old one.
Right. I think one day I just brought a box into a classroom, and I just put it underneath the kid's desk so he could actually reach the box, because he was just kind of floating in the air. And the teacher's like, oh, And actually that kid's parent happened to be in the classroom that day too. And so she was like, "Oh my God, you're the best OT ever. You actually did something for this kid that will make him able to
Meanwhile,
work."
it's so
Right.
simple. Yeah.
So yeah, it's the simple things in life that go a long way. So
That's what I love about OT.
yeah. Miss Jamie OT has been an inspiration for us over at the OT Schoolhouse. So we thank you so much for everything that you're doing there. And I had no idea at first how much you were doing for the advocacy going on right now. So let's jump into that a little bit. You mentioned it, you're just kind of on this high of school-based OT advocacy. I saw your shirt recently at the New York State Association that you had that was like all glammed out for school-based OTs. What is it exactly that you're advocating for?
Exactly. Okay, so yes, I had bright, obnoxiously yellow neon shirts made up, and on the front they said, "I support school-based OTs looking for change." And on the back they said, "Do you?" So it was the perfect forum to wear them to the New York State Occupational Therapy Association. So basically, myself and many other OTs, it's not just me. There's 5 admins of our group. We are advocating for what we call educational credentialing. So you might say, what's educational credentialing? Basically, what it means is if you look into the state regs, and it's different for every single state, but it's very similar across the USA. In New York, exactly, when you look at the New York State Education Department regulations and you look at who is considered a pupil personnel service. So teachers get teaching certificates, and then there's pupil personnel. So they're not exactly teachers, but they're considered teachers under the umbrella of pupil personnel.
Exactly.
So that includes guidance counselors, speech and language pathologists. It includes social workers, school psychologists. It includes a lot of other related service providers who our role in the school is, so similar, if not almost identical. Of course, we're OTs and they're working on other goals, but we all work directly with children. We all have master's level degrees or higher. We're all, advocating for children and working on their IEPs. We have very similar roles. And occupational and physical therapy in New York State are left out of this umbrella, and it really impacts us tremendously. It impacts us in terms of how we're employed, in terms of how we're able to treat, what unions we're put in, our rate of pay, our pension, our retirement, the amount of paperwork we have. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And it's just one of those crazy laws. And this is how I've been explaining it. There's also the law about children needed to be severely in a deficit range in order to get any special education services. So the parents really fought about that. And now we have RTI, response to intervention. So we're putting measures into place before a child falls like way, way behind. We're trying to catch them up earlier on. And that's a great law. The old law is crazy. Why were we doing it that way? And in my mind, this law right now, the fact that OTs and PTs are not considered equal to, teachers and speech therapists and guidance counselors and psychologists, it's just crazy.
No,
and
I completely agree.
It impacts us, and it really impacts the children. And that's, the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Because, it's amazing because some of the simple things that we can't do without that credential is we can't have more than a few kids in a classroom at a time with us. Like we're kind of on the same level as a classroom aide in that sense, in the sense that we have to have a teacher to be in the classroom in order for us to be like with a group of kids. And so that limits the ability that that limits the amount of RTI that we can provide. Like something like you're talking about, you're doing handwriting research. I'd love to hear more about that because at this point, it's kind of my understanding that I couldn't say, hey, first grade teachers, do you each have like 3 kids that are having some difficulty with handwriting? Because I can help those kids in a classroom, but I can't do that because I have to completely assess them all if I want to work with that child. And so that prevents me from doing a simple RTI, MTSS, whatever you want to call it, group with those kids to help them in a few weeks versus now, we'll just wait until they fall behind and then they're going to need an IEP. Okay, now they can have OT.
Right. I know.
And so you're right. I think we really have to express, because it's absolutely true, how much we can benefit the kids through this.
Yeah, and the teachers too. And I think that because administration, they just really they're not aware of our value, and we need to show them. And I don't think that they're unopen to it. We just haven't thinking about it. I've never heard about OTs advocating, really going crazy advocating about this before. So maybe now's the time. Maybe administrators just didn't know, or they don't know what exactly we can do.
Yeah.
Another really big limitation for the fact that we don't have credentialing is that we can't try to further our careers by pursuing administrative degrees. Correct. So that's huge. I mean, you can graduate when you're 24 with your OT degree, and that's it. Mm-hmm. You can't become, a higher level. You can't get another degree under the school law. And that's just a shame, because think of how your job would change if you had an OT as your administrator. I don't think that children would be getting recess skipped. And I think maybe the art room and the cafeterias wouldn't have adult-sized furniture. Yeah. I mean, little things. I don't think OTs would be working in the locker rooms or the hallways. It just wouldn't happen, because an administrator who had that background of OT would get it. Mm-hmm. And these are little things that are really important to the kids.
Yeah, as you're talking, so many things are going through my mind. I know in hospitals, there's kind of a push in some places for OTs to start being case carriers on a acute patient's rehab team, because we do have that holistic approach. We see the medical side. We see the side that is the patient going home and having to go up and down stairs. We see all of that. And so in the same sense, when it comes to school, I mean, having an admin that's an occupational therapist, like, they kind of see that whole picture. They're not focused on just the numbers that the SAT scores are putting out or whatever. And I'm not saying that all admin are, but we do kind of have that just right amount of education in several different areas. It's like, we're not a specialist in any one thing, but we have so much information about everything. It sometimes seems like, obviously we do have a very specialized education, but actually I just met an OT, and I won't say her name on here just because, hopefully one day she'll come on the podcast, but she is actually a special education director at a district in the Southern California area. Wow. And I just met her at the OTAC conference, and I basically told her she's my hero because she went back and got her psychology credential so that she could become a principal, and now she is the special ed director. And so it took her, she was telling me, like 10 years from having her OT degree in order to get to the place where she could be an administrator. And so that's just amazing. And like, I've been contemplating with that for like 2 years now, because I kind of have similar aspirations, I guess you could say. But it's just, like you said, it's impossible for us right now, basically. And so I'm happy to hear what you're doing. And I know California is kind of on the same page and working towards something like this. And so we talked a little bit about how we can benefit, but I guess we kind of talked about this, but I want to dive into it a little bit more. How the teachers and the students will benefit from us having this credential. What do you see as the top things?
I think one of the main drawbacks to us not having the credentials is that we're not always employed equally. And this can impact our schedule. It can impact our caseload, which impacts the kids. Mm-hmm. We're spread between however many buildings, and we don't have a prep period to, write our notes or call parents or do all those other things that other school professionals have time to do. It impacts the quality of our care. And unfortunately, I really want to know, do parents know this? No. They just think their OT isn't in touch, or that their OT isn't available. And they're not available because they ate lunch in their car and, they didn't use the bathroom all day today. Like, they are running. And it's just, unfortunately, because they don't have this credentialing, that it impacts, it just impacts so much. And it also, like I said about the holistic view, if an OT was in the administration, the whole school would have a different feel. I mean, we know about mental health. We know about behavior. We know about, physical strength. We know about so many different things, just like you said. And it would just add a very different positive point of view to the school community.
Yeah. So one of the things that I know is a hot topic when talking about the credentialing, whatever you want to call it, educational credential, is the education. The education that we do or do not have, and the education that we may or may not have to get in order to earn this credential. And so, in my opinion, I mean, I remember, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was, being a new school-based OT straight out of grad school. I mean, I didn't understand education. I didn't understand Common Core. I didn't know what the actual third graders are actually working toward. That's not something we necessarily learn in occupational therapy school. I mean, I know my program, it was pediatric based in a way, but it was mostly clinic pediatric based. We did not have a lot of school-based resources to really learn about. And so I think we are limited in the sense that we don't get the best, I mean, I don't know, we get a great education, but not necessarily geared towards school-based therapy. And so I don't know what education may or may not be in the works if we're to do that, but I do actually think that it would be beneficial for us to learn a little bit about education and how that system works.
Well, I agree with you. And I think it really depends state to state, because it depends what school you went to, what is the curriculum.
Of course.
But also, if you think of any new speech therapist or school psychologist or guidance counselor, do they know the curriculum? Do they know what the third graders are working towards? No. They go into the building and they learn as a hands-on person under the mentorship of a skilled school professional.
That's true.
And OTs don't have that.
No.
We don't have a mentorship. I mean, I shouldn't say everywhere because things are different in every single state, but as a whole, so many OTs that I've spoken to. I mean, I know myself, when I graduated, I literally went into my school-based OT position as a contract therapist with no help. I had a hard enough time making my schedule, much less looking through my textbook, trying to come up with activities. I was a newbie, and I really could have used someone to teach me and show me. So again, it's different in every single state, but in New York, our school social workers have to graduate from their program and then work within a school for 2 years under the mentorship of a licensed social worker within a school. So, and then they're able to apply for their certificate. So why couldn't we do something like that? I don't know. There's a giant shortage of school-based therapists, and a lot of it is because of this. It impacts our pay, it impacts our job satisfaction. So people are choosing to go elsewhere. If we were to put extra demands for more education or that we have to take classes in order to get this, I think it would only limit people from pursuing it even more. So I think personally, I'm New York. I know the conversations that I've had with other New York OTs is that we're hoping to follow in the pathway that social workers set up for themselves. But again, it would be different from state to state, which is why, each state needs to really figure out what will work for them.
Definitely. So, yeah, and I know speech therapists, in order to earn their Cs, I think they have to have 1 year of supervision. And so, exactly, similar type of system. I know they also have to pass a few similar tests that teachers have to pass. It's called, I think, the RECA out here and another one. But, so I like your idea of the mentorship. That makes a lot of sense. All right, so now that we know a little bit about what we're advocating for, let's talk about how we actually get to that. How do we advocate at different levels? Obviously, like you've been saying, every state's different. We all have our different licensure boards. We all have different educational systems, educational codes. So how are you advocating for yourself at the district level?
So in terms of my full-time job at the district, I'm advocating for myself by really putting my voice out there when it comes to school-wide initiatives that I know that I could be a part of. I make sure to let my administrator know. And that's, again, another job on me, because I am spread pretty thin. I don't know any OT that isn't, but so are teachers and so are other school workers. I don't mean, that I'm more spread thin than anyone else, but, I've been speaking up and saying, you know what, I heard that we are, looking to increase movement in the elementary schools. I'd love to talk to you about hiring occupational therapists to implement, RTI groups in the kindergartens to really work on the motor skills. As I said, I'm doing a handwriting research project in the kindergarten and first grades, and I've screened 22 classes of children. And it's just so alarming, the level of their motor skills and their grasping patterns. And it's upsetting. The kids are coming to us delayed in their motor skills, but we're expecting advanced, academic work from them. And it's not fair to the children. And there's such an easy fix, have an RTI program with motor skills in place. We can slip right into that reading block and incorporate motor skills with literacy. It doesn't need to be, jumping jacks in the middle of the classroom. It can be very conspicuous and just an extra interventionist in the classroom. And, that would, you have to speak up at your job and let them know what you can do and what your knowledge and expertise is. Most administrators do not know that we know more than fine motor, handwriting, and sensory. They're not aware. They're not aware that we can run social skills groups or anti-bullying initiatives or RTI programs. They just don't know what we can do, and we need to let them know.
Yeah, and I try to weave in a little bit of that, especially like the social skills group. I like to chime in during the IEPs a little bit and kind of speak up and just say, oh, that's a concern that you're having. You know what? That's something that we can work on during our OT sessions a little bit. And just so it just kind of implants that seed into the administrators' minds. Oh, Jason can do that with the kid? Okay. All right, we'll see what happens. And then the next time you mention it, now, they're open to it. So
Right.
All right. So that's at the district level, maybe even the individual school level. What about at the state level? I know we already talked about your glamorous outfit at the soda. So, so what's going on at the state level? How are you helping out?
So at the state level, for myself personally, it's really important to belong to your state organization and see what they're doing to advocate for school-based OTs. If you're not speaking up, they're not speaking up for you. So they are paying attention to their members, and their members are asking for A, B, and C. That's what they're going to put their efforts into. So if you're not a member and you're not speaking up about your concerns, then you're just not there. You're not at the party. And, you need to go there and you need to say, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what's happening. So for me, as terms of New York, I've been kind of grouping together lots of New York OTs, and we've been writing letters to our state education department. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the American Occupational Therapy Association wrote a letter to every single state education department in the United States 2 summers ago, advocating for school-based OTs and the benefits that we could provide to a school district as leaders, and asking for a response from the education department as to, would you consider us to be leaders? Would you allow us educational credentialing so that we can further our careers? Because we have a lot of great qualities. And the letter was, very articulate, and it went on to list all of the qualities that OTs have, as well as our educational background, etc. And as far as I know, not one single state education department has answered the American Occupational Therapy Association. So isn't that telling? They're not even answering an American organization. I mean, AOTA represents thousands and thousands of people and thousands of school-based OTs. Our state ed departments can't even answer with a letter.
Yeah. And that's tough because, I get it from the administrator point of view. There's only, there's one OT for every 3, 4, 10 schools. And so we are not on their radar at all. We're just not. And until we start to stand up, like you were talking about at that district, that individual school level, then what reason are we giving them to answer that letter? And so they need to know what we can do to help them let's be honest here. It comes down for the higher ups in the district, it comes down to money. And we have to show, just like that recent research showed, that OTs are kind of one of the few people that can actually save hospitals money. You know what? We need to kind of show the district that we're there to help them, not just the kids. And so for anyone out there looking for a doctorate project.
Well, also the disconnect between what we actually can do and what we're being almost permitted or encouraged to do. So there is a giant disconnect. So I am actually, with my New York State admin group for school-based OTs looking for change, we're in the midst of putting together a bunch of surveys, and we are really trying to gather data within New York State about what administrators really know about what occupational therapy can do and what their perceptions are, as well as what do parents think about OTs? We want to know, how many OTs have you had this year? Was there a lot of turnover? Have you had a shortage of OTs that impacted your child? We're really trying to gather information so that we can put the whole picture together with data and research for administration and for the New York State Education Department. Look at this. Our survey shows that OTs have a poor job satisfaction, high burnout, poor pay, high turnover. They're looking for other positions. Parents are complaining because they can't find an OT. Guess why?
They're not there.
Right. Why would I, and it's like, I personally, I love working with children, and I'm not saying, but you could see where a therapist would choose to go another route if they need to support their family, or they want to, rise up in their profession and advance professionally to a higher level. And this opportunity is not there for school-based therapists.
No, definitely. So I think advocating at the national level is very similar to the state level. You talked about that letter that AOTA sent out to the state's education system, and, nothing really came back. But is there anything in particular? I know you have your Facebook group. We'll get into that in a minute. But are you writing at all to AOTA and letting them know the concerns, or are you urging other OTs to do that?
Yes, in my New York State group, as well as in the USA School-Based OTs Looking for Change group, number one, I urged OTs to write a letter to their state education department attaching the AOTA letter and saying, what's the response? Obviously, much longer and more articulate, but, OTs would make great leaders. This, impacts me personally. What is your response to this? So we started a letter writing campaign in New York. We've sent, I don't know exactly how many letters, but people were interacting and saying, I sent mine. I know personally I've sent a bunch. I sent a couple of emails and a couple of letters, and nothing, so we did do that, avenue. But on top of that, in terms of AOTA, yes, we had a bunch of our OTs write to their AOTA RAs. That's the representative assembly. So each state has a few representatives for AOTA, and those representatives are supposed to represent the people of that region and let AOTA know what their, constituents are feeling and thinking. So I did have a bunch of my New York members write to our New York RAs and say, hey, school-based OTs are struggling here. There's a shortage. There's high burnout. We're stressed. We're overworked. We haven't gotten raises in 20 years. It's bad, and we really need help from the National Association, and we are on their radar.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the advocacy webinars for Membership Appreciation Week, but they did wonderful webinars, almost one a day, about advocating for your profession and all this other stuff, but it really didn't touch on school-based therapy. There really was almost nothing for a school-based therapist to kind of grab onto and be inspired by. So we wrote in, we said, well, what about school? What about school agencies? Does AOTA have any plan to help schools, school-based therapists? It's not all about skilled nursing facilities. And I'm not, saying that they're not important. Of course they are, but we need help too. And we've been on the back burner for too long.
Definitely. We're just not being heard.
We're also not speaking up enough.
Yes. But also, as far as AOTA goes, like you said, a lot of this is state dependent. And AOTA can send a letter to each individual state, but until the states really fight for it, that's who's going to make that difference. Every state has their own educational code. And it's typically that education code that points out who can get a credential and who cannot get a credential, and what the requirements are, and what that person with a credential can and cannot do. And so, in California, we are fighting it. We had a setback this previous year. It didn't go through, AB 2386, I believe it was. And it didn't go through. But the OTAC, Occupational Therapy Association of California, they're determined, and they've already told us, what, we're going to continue with this. We're not giving up. What, we may have to change the route a little bit, but they know that here in California, we are, it's the big agenda item right now. What, we got something passed this previous year, but this one didn't. And so now it's kind of time for this one to go through. So if you're in California, be sure to speak up continuously, because, You know what? This actually leads right into our next topic is misconceptions. There's some OTs out here that have some misconceptions about what this credentialing initiative may actually entail and how it might benefit us. And we actually, there's some people that are speaking out against this initiative. And so what are some of in talking to people, what are some of the misconceptions you've come across?
So I've heard some things about, are we going to have to take additional courses? I don't want to go back to school. Am I going to have to take additional courses in order to continue doing what I do? And, that shouldn't be the case. Again, it's going to be state to state.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the snowball effect, it could be that maybe there'll be some changes to occupational therapy program curriculums, but that's for new students.
Yeah.
For us, there shouldn't be any giant upset or upheaval. And again, it hasn't happened yet, so I can't guarantee. But I mean, that hasn't happened for other professions that changed their pathway, and it shouldn't happen for us.
Mm-hmm.
We should really just be grandfathered in. And, then I've also heard people who said, well, if we become educationally credentialed, I might get observed, and I don't want to get observed. Okay, well, do you want to make another $40,000 a year? If so, then you need to be observed once a year. And why wouldn't you want to be observed? Show them how awesome you are. Show them the cool, fun things that you do while incorporating curriculum and everything that child needs to know. Like, I have been working for my school district for 18 years, and I have never been observed. And honestly, I'm insulted.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
I want to be, and that's my take on it. And I understand that other people are not looking that way, and that's fine. We all have our different point of views. But when it comes down to it, we deserve parity with teachers. And if we're asking for equal pay and equal career opportunities, then we might have to deal with equal supervision or equal, obligations that we're not dealing with right now. Personally, if I had to do bus duty and it gave me another $40,000 a year, I would do bus duty. It is what it is. But every state and every school is different, but it's just that kind of negative attitude. I don't want to do anything more. Maybe if you had this credentialing, you'd be in a proper union and you would have a prep period and time to eat your lunch. Mm-hmm. Maybe you wouldn't be so overworked and stressed that you would feel that you couldn't take on one more thing. Yeah. Because school-based OTs, unfortunately, have a very high rate of burnout, and this is why. And we have to look at it, the positive, like glass half full. If we got this credentialing, we would be much more equal. So not only, yes, would we be observed, but we would also have similar schedules and similar pay, retirement, pension, all that great stuff. We'd be invited to the team collaboration meetings. We could use our voice. We'd be part of the, in my district, we call it the IST, the instructional support team. Basically, it's like when we have concerns about a child, we go to a meeting about it. I don't get invited to that meeting. There's no time for me. I'm busy running around like a crazy person. But I would love to be at that meeting to give input and suggestions and pre-referral strategies. And
Absolutely.
I think that it's a valuable voice that's missing.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting because it just shows the difference between some of the things that you said, shows the difference just between two states. In California, we have people that are concerned about taking a pay cut if we get credentialed, because here OTs tend to make a higher starting salary than teachers do. And the end salary, depending on the district, might be similar, but typically there's about anywhere from 15 to 20 steps for a teacher. Every year they get a pay raise for 15 to 20 years versus OTs, we max out after 7 years. And so we start high, but we don't have much to go versus teachers start low and then eventually surpass us typically.
Right.
And then again, what you're talking about, the union, in California, no one knows what union they're in. Like literally they did a survey and people said, I don't know what union I'm in. And I'm not in a union. I'm considered classified management. I know other OTs that are considered certificated. Other OTs are just classified. And these are all, in a way, meaningless names that don't mean a whole lot other than how much you make, what your pension is, and whether or not you have a credential. And
who's representing you if you get in trouble?
No one.
Right.
No one. So I'm representing myself.
Yeah. In New York, we don't have those terms at all. Everything that you just said, I've never heard of that.
Okay.
We are either in the teachers union or we're in the civil service union. Do you know what that is?
Is that like the non-teachers union?
I guess yes.
That would be our
Basically,
classified.
okay, so the civil service union for us is anyone who works in a school that's not considered a school professional. So it's it's bus drivers, custodians, the secretaries, the lunch ladies, the one-to-one aides, all of them, and then OTE. And it just makes no sense because we're the only people in that union with a master's degree or higher, and we are the only people in those unions that are actually working directly on a child's education. So it's like, what are we doing there? It makes no sense. And it's not, oh, we're better than anyone or anything like that. I actually had a few administrators like shame me into like, because I was saying, this is inappropriate. I should not be in this union. I have a master's degree. Everyone in this union doesn't. And they were like, well, and they made me really like ashamed. I was young when that happened, but they really did. And it was smart of them, because I didn't feel like I had the strength to be assertive enough to stick up for myself, but it's not appropriate. And I'm still in that union and it's not appropriate. And I'm on literally the head custodian's pay scale. And I've been working in my district for 18 years, and new teachers who've been there for 6-7 years are probably making exactly what I make.
Yeah.
And it's just not right. It's just not right.
So actually right now in California, the CSEA, California School Employees Association, which I think is kind of on par with what you're talking about. It's those employees that aren't teachers, basically. So all the custodians, all the bus drivers, anyone who's not credentialed, and it basically isn't teaching. So not the psychologist. They're actually the ones that kind of gave us the biggest fight on AB 2386. And the best we can figure is that OTs do tend to be in that union. And so they're believing that they're sticking up for their union members. In actuality, it's obviously every OT has a different feeling, but a lot of OTs aren't even in that association, but they have this, idea that every OT is a CSEA member. And so we need to stick up for them. But they spoke up big time against this. We had support from the California Teachers Association. We had support from the administrators. We obviously had support from AOTA, but that CSEA, they really kind of spoke up. And so unfortunately it didn't happen, but we're not going to be turned away.
Not yet.
We're still working on it. Yep.
Glass half full, right?
Exactly. So let's continue on. We talked about pay. We talked about some of the education. Yes, I agree with you on the fact that and from what I have understood, is that grandfathering effect, that should be in most states that I've heard, that's kind of in play, that grandfathering effect for if you're already working in the schools, you won't really need any more education.
Right.
I meant to ask you earlier, do you know of any states where this is actually already occurring?
Yes. And you know what? I'm ashamed to say there are 4 states within the USA that have it. And people always ask me, what for?
I know one's Washington.
Oh, man. Washington, I think New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I heard that one.
I want to say Idaho.
I'm not sure about that one.
And I think New Jersey. But
okay.
I don't want to be quoted on it because for some reason, I say these 4 and I look it up constantly and I'm always like, oh, wait, which ones?
There's one that's got to be wrong, right?
Just can't wait to add New York to the list.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And we'll have to get someone else on the podcast from one of those states and ask how they're doing it because we got to learn from somewhere, right? So
definitely. That's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've been going strong for almost 40 minutes now. Let's kind of wrap this up. What can OTs do now in order to join the advocacy effort? If this is something that they're interested in, they want to know more about this, what can they do?
So the number one thing they can do is join our face group, USA School-Based OTs Looking for Change. You can just put that right in the search bar of Facebook, and no matter where you are in the United States, you can find us and join our group. I just want to warn you that it is a closed group. So if your profile does not state that you're an occupational therapist, we are not allowing new random people, basically. Like we don't want educational administrators in there lurking. We want OTs and we want to have real, honest conversations with occupational therapists about what we can do to advocate. So that's the national group. And then we have a bunch of state groups. We have California, North Carolina, South Carolina, Illinois, Connecticut, New York, Florida.
All
So
right.
those are the individual state groups. Most of them are really small and just starting up at this point. And my goal is I'm the New York one, and we have a lot happening here. And as we start to progress, I'm very eager to take everything we've done and state by state help you guys take over your states as well.
Perfect.
We're, everything that we're doing, we want to hand to you and say, okay, now adapt it to California or adapt it to Connecticut. And, why are we reinventing the wheel? The thing that we have on our side, the huge, amazing benefit that we have on our side is social media. 20 years ago, there was no social media. And now here we are. Jason, I feel like I know you forever.
Seriously.
We've never even met. You're in California and New York. And because of social media, we know each other professionally and can help each other out. And, it's a different situation. It's a different life. And we can make our advocacy efforts spread so much faster and so much, just in mass as opposed to in trickles, finding out, oh, yeah, I know someone who cares about that.
And I think, you announced that we have a California school-based OTs looking for change Facebook group. So I guess I should kind of just say this is going to be the official kickoff event right now. Right now, there is only 3 people in that group. But after this podcast, I hope to have many more in there. So come join us. Right now, it's Jamie, myself, and one other OT. It's Jean, right? Jean. And so this is the official kickoff. And so we'll put links to all of these different pages right there in the show notes at otschoolhouse.com/episode 19. This will be. So be sure to check that out. Get involved. We'd love to have you. Come help us. The other thing that Jamie mentioned earlier is make sure you're part of your state organization. They need to know what you are looking for. And as much as they like to hear you, they also need your support financially too, because they have to pay for people. They have to pay for lawyers and or it's fundraising. Yes. And all those people that lobby for us up at the state capitals. So be sure to pay it. It is worth it. Go to your state conferences. I know some of them are small, but that is where you meet people that are interested in the same thing that you are. And that's where these little, grassroots things start. So with that, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I think you covered it. If you care about your career and you'd like to continue to progress and have opportunities and pathways, then it's important for you to really look at this and be a part, and don't be a lurker. I was thinking about it. Yes. The other day, every once in a while I get frustrated because I have all these great ideas and people are saying, I'll help. And then they don't really do anything. And I don't take it personally. I think they're just not sure how to get started or what they can do to help. But it's kind of like if you go to someone's house and they are making you this big, fabulous dinner and you're just watching and then you can't wait to eat it all up, but you didn't do anything to help. Like, guess what? It's the littlest thing that you can do. And if you're wondering how you can help, reach out to the person who's running your state group and just say, is there anything I can do? I mean, for me personally, I have 1,000 things you can do. I'll just give you one. But I'm so grateful to the people who have reached out to me and in New York, have really been supportive and allowed us to make a small a small spark into almost like an explosion. We really have gained a lot of power because there are so many of us and everyone's willing to help a little bit, which is all we need. We're all busy. We're all stressed.
Absolutely.
But guess what? It impacts us and it's important.
Well, they say, if you need something done, give it to the most busy person, right?
Yes.
So, Miss Jamie, you are that busy person. So, all right.
You.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. People can reach you at Miss Jamie OT. Is there anywhere else they can reach you?
Yes, my website is missjamieot.com. Jamie is spelled Jaime. Everybody spells it wrong, so I always correct that. I also have a Facebook page. I do tons of Facebook Live videos for OTs, teachers, parents, and that's Facebook/MissJamieOT. Or they can just email me at missjamieot@gmail.com, and it's Jaime.
Perfect.
And that's it. I'd love to hear from anyone, especially if you're interested in helping us advocate.
Yeah.
I'm really always looking for new friends who can partner up with us and make things happen.
I know we have some New York listeners to the podcast, so hopefully you'll get some extra help from that. And we also have California out there, so I hope to hear from you guys as well. Reach out to us. We will definitely have all of these links on the show notes, again, at otschoolhouse.com/episode 19. We look forward to seeing you on all of our blogs, Miss Jamie OT, otschoolhouse.com, as well as the Facebook pages. So with that, we bid you a good evening, good morning, whatever time you're listening to this podcast. Have a good one. And thank you again, Jamie. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Well, that was Jaime Spencer of MissJamieOT.com. Be sure to check out her page as well as the show notes at otschoolhouse.com/episode 19 for several links to all the topics that we discussed today. And also be sure to join Jamie on her Facebook groups. Like she said, she has United States School-Based OTs Looking for Change as a Facebook group, but she also has New York, Connecticut, Indiana, North Carolina, Michigan, South Carolina, Illinois, and as we said earlier, we're now welcoming in the California School-Based OTs Looking for Change Facebook group. So head on over there, join us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the OT Schoolhouse podcast. For more ways to help you and your students succeed right now, head on over to otschoolhouse.com. Until next time, class is dismissed.